breakfast.
The Radio Wammo Breakfast.
Talking politics with Phil Goff.
Politics indeed, with the leader of the Labour Party, Phil Goff. Good morning.
Good morning, Wammo. I'm sitting in the brilliant sunshine in Wellington, having escaped from that wet place called Auckland this morning.
Yeah, it's not very gloomy outside in Auckland City, that's for sure.
Yeah. No, it was a pretty miserable morning when I left. I caught the early flight down, and surprise, surprise. Every now and again, Wellington turns a good one up.
Okay, so you represent the New Zealand Labour Party with a U. But first of all, I want to start talking about the Labour Party without a U, and that's over in Australia, and the hung situation going on over there. It was only a few months ago that it looked like a given that Labour would have taken out any election this year.
Yeah, there's an old saying in politics, I think it was Harold Wilson that came up with it, a week's a long time in politics, and the Australian political scene has shown that very clearly. Look, 6 months to a year ago, you would have regarded the re-election of the incumbent government as a foregone conclusion. You know, everybody said, oh, no, government will get back, you know. And to be fair to the Labor government there, they've done a pretty good job. They've got their unemployment down. They've created 350,000 new jobs. People are getting wage rises in Australia, unlike New Zealand. And yet things turned bad on them very quickly indeed. And that means that, you know, I think no government actually can afford to be complacent. You take the electorate for granted, and they'll come back and bite you.
Do you think one of the big problems, though, with the campaign, looking, you know, from the other side of the Tasman at the campaign, the two major parties there didn't really discuss any kind of deep issues affecting Australians? It was all really about personality politics.
Well, it was really, and that's always a pity because, you know, there are clear differences between the major political parties, and in the next year's election, those are the things that I'll want to be campaigning on, not about personality, but, where's the plan to make sure that wages can rise faster than prices and not the other way around? Where's the plan to create jobs? When, you know, 20,000 people extra joined the unemployment queues in the last 3 months. What about asset sales? We don't want asset sales of the remaining, community-owned assets that we've got. Those are the sort of issues that I'll want to campaign on and fight the election on, because those are the things that make differences in people's lives.
And one of those issues that looks like it'll be put into law this week, of course, is the 90-day bill, the 90-day time, when you get a new job where you could be fired. And employers can test you out. But what I wonder in this debate, though, and I think this could help clarify what it actually means for most people, is the difference between this 90-day bill and the current situation in law where you can have a probation period for employees anyway. Yeah.
Well, look, I've got no problem with a probation period. Maybe for the first 3 months, let's see how the person goes. And if the person's not up to the job, well, that's all there is to it. But under the proposed law and the law that they brought in that currently applies to small firms, you can be sacked any time during those 90 days for no reason at all. You don't even have to give a reason, and it could be for a very bad reason. And let me give you just one example, Wammo. There was a young woman that was in the paper the other day. She was working for, I think it was Burger King, and she'd done really well. You know, she'd done a training, she'd got top marks in a training, she was a good employee, but her employer was expecting her to work through her lunch break each day, only to give her 10 minutes. Well, you know, pretty hard to have your lunch in 10 minutes. And when she complained about this, she received a notice on day 89. Now, it's clear why she was sacked. She was sacked because she was standing up for a basic right that any person has in any place of employment. You've got to have a reasonable period of time to have your lunch. I mean, that goes back 100 years. I had another woman that approached me from Christchurch, taken on as an office manager. And the office systems in the firm that she was in, it was 18 people, so it was covered by the 90-day law, were a total mess. She left a good job, went into this job. They gave her an assistant to work alongside her. She cleaned out that system, got it humming, got it right, and on day 87 they sacked her and replaced her with the other staff member that they paid half as much money to.
But what is the difference between that and the 90-day probation period?
Well, I think that you can have a probation period, but you should, under Labour law, be required to give a reason if you take away a person's job.
What's the current situation with the 90-day probation period, or 3 months probation period?
Outside of the 90-day law that they passed back in 2008 for small firms, you've got to give a reason, and if the reason doesn't stack up, the employee has the right to challenge that
Even
reason.
under the 90-day probation period?
Even under the probation period, it's a probation period, but you've still got to give a reason.
Okay.
I mean, it is literally, to coin a phrase, unreasonable for somebody to be told they're fired and not be told why, and not have the opportunity to say, look, that's not fair. It means that you might be vulnerable in your workplace. Even though it's against the law, you could be sacked because they didn't like your ethnicity. You could be sacked because the boss tried to chat you up and you turned him down, and then he doesn't have to give a reason, so you don't know that you've been sacked for that reason, but you strongly suspect it was because you rejected his advances. I mean, that makes it utterly unfair, and it makes all of the other protective laws under the labour codes unenforceable, because if you don't have to give a reason, you can be sacked for anything.
It looks so, like, though, in general polls around the place, people aren't, in the majority, against this.
They're not against a trial period, as you and I aren't against that, but they are, if you ask the question, should anybody be able to be sacked without a reason being given, they are totally against that. I mean, that's against the Kiwi idea of a fair go. Of course, if you're going to be sacked, you've got to be given the reason. It's just not fair to be laid off, to lose your livelihood, and the boss to say, well, the reason I'm just keeping that to myself. How can that be fair?
Phil Goff, thanks so much for your time this morning.
Okay,
cheers.
Thanks, Wammo. Good to talk to you, mate. Cheers.
See ya. Leader of the Labour Party, Phil Goff.